Thanks for listening to Goddab Radio, a podcast for progressive thinking people. I'm Mad Dog Manser, and I'm here to bring you relevant and honest news and information that I find compelling. We cover politics, debunk conspiracy theories, report on cannabis in Oregon, and feature guest interviews regularly. At Goddab Radio, we are ferociously progressive, fiercely skeptical, and forcefully scientific with a no-nonsense attitude. Today is Friday, March 17th. It's St. Patrick's Day, and we have a good show today with this especially impressive carnival bark section that you're really going to enjoy, and an update from Compassionate Oregon on their bill in Salem that's been co-opted by the OLCC to introduce language to integrate the systems. It's a bullshit move, really, and Anthony Taylor from Compassionate Oregon is going to be here to explain what happened and what you can do. And we're also going to be covering conspiracy theory this week, of course. And this week we're going to focus on crop circles. That's right, crop circles. They're sometimes called corn circles in the UK, and they're geometric designs of flattened or knocked over crops. These strange things were initially made by two Englishmen in the late 1970s who thought up the idea in a pub where they should have been reminiscing about the good times with their best friend Ava. The phenomenon grew thanks to publicity in the tabloid press and many copycat pranksters. And although now widely known to be hoaxes, they were often used as evidence for alien visitations during their heyday in the 1980s and 90s. People who specialize in the study of them are known as Syriologists. People who think they are alien artifacts are typically referred to by less charitable terms. It has to be admitted, though, that some crop circles are pretty cool works of art, no matter who or what made them. Gullible people, however, continue to believe that they are made by flying saucers, even though the original pranksters fessed up in 1991 to starting the craze. If UFO enthusiasts even acknowledge the original pranksters at all, they'll say it doesn't matter because those guys couldn't have been responsible for all the other circles. Now, apparently, they're not grasping the concept of copycat pranksters. The assumption is that although the aliens are intelligent enough to evade the radar detection systems of the entire planet, they are not smart enough to notice they have left quite clear evidence of their landing. Further theories even say that the aliens have nothing better to do than knock over crops, leaving the marks intentionally as coded messages. Alien visitations aren't the only explanation for crop circles, although they are by far the most popular. Others think that they are the result of plasma vortexes, various forms of secret government activity, or some kind of earth energy linked to ley lines. The supernatural explanations also don't account for exactly why the aliens are carrying planks and rope in a box on their spaceship when they are visiting Earth in the first place. The best explanation is that they probably had a few too many space Cronenbergs and thought pranking the humans would be funny. In case you guys are wondering, this is coming from Rational Wiki, one of my favorite sources, as I've mentioned many times, for the debunking of conspiracy theories. Some of those natural explanations are, let's see, ball lightning. That's been a common one. There's a famous old video that shows the ball lightning that's forming the crop circles right before your very eyes. And they can make these amazing geometric patterns. The more advanced shapes cannot be the result of such natural phenomena. Even if they were known to exist and be capable of creating crop circles, though, both the hoax theory and the alien theory proponents point to the complexity of their shapes as evidence of an intelligent source, though they quite obviously disagree on what the intelligence is. Real explanations are unnecessary when it is known that these teams of perfectly ordinary, if not entirely normal, human beings construct crop circles for a hobby, which everyone should have. Everybody should be out there making crop circles. Why not? Human night vision turns out to be quite good once it's developed, enabling circle markers to operate perfectly well without artificial light. Indeed, better without it, explaining why no one ever sees them at night. There are several websites dedicated to cataloging notable examples of this variety of earth-form art, and in 1992, a competition was even held to see who could do the best. The competition was noted for the fact that the teams worked to a standard design with features that were said by believers to be difficult to fake. The results were very conclusive in demonstrating that humans could not only reproduce complex designs, but could also do it without leaving a trace in a short period of time and in remarkably small groups. Numerous techniques and tools are also well known, such as using ropes or telescopic rods to get a constant radius to a circle, a flat plank of wood or bending the crops down, and especially linked ladders to get over crops without leaving trails. None of the supernatural or non-hoax natural theories explain why, during the quarantine of the British countryside during the foot and mouth epidemic of 2001, the number of crop circles being made fell dramatically, to rise again when the footpaths were reopened. Except, of course, if the aliens were afraid of exposing their livestock to such a disease, maybe, right? So anyway, seriology, no form of, as they say here, no form of woo is complete without its attendant pseudoscience. For crop circles, it's called seriology. Students of seriology follow the classical pseudoscientific method, studying all bullshit evidence that supports their preconceived notions, that studiously ignoring tiresome facts and reality. They have websites, so clearly they must be proper researchers, not driveling lunatics who haven't found porn, so invent aliens instead. Ooh, harsh words there from Rational Wiki. Yeah, no, crop circles are not made by aliens or energy vortexes, folks. Just not a real thing. Nope. So go rethink that one if you need to. Just saying. All right, now you know what time it is. It's time for Carnival Barks, our weekly Trump Roundup, where we highlight recent alternative facts from the so-called president, a segment where we point out the absurdities, lies, and blunders coming from Trump and his inept administration. We start our segment off with this persistent story of the Obama wiretapping, and it's hounding Trump like no other story since the grab him by the pussy story during the election. Trump doubled down, though, recently on Fox News.
On March 4th, 6:35 in the morning, you're down in Florida, and you tweet, the former administration wiretapped me, surveilled me at Trump Tower during the last election. How did you find out? You said, I just found out. How did you learn that?
I've been reading about things. I read in, I think it was January 20th, a New York Times article where they were talking about wiretapping. There was an article, I think they used that exact term. I read other things. I watched your friend Bret Baier the day previous, where he was talking about certain very complex sets of things happening and wiretapping. I said, wait a minute, there's a lot of wiretapping being talked about. I've been seeing a lot of things. Now, for the most part, I'm not going to discuss it because we have it before the committee, and we will be submitting things before the committee very soon. That hasn't been submitted as of yet. But it's potentially a very serious situation.
So 51,000 people retweeted that. So a lot of people thought that was plausible. They believe you. You're the president. Yeah. You're in charge of the agencies. Every intelligence agency reports to you. Why not immediately go to them and gather evidence to support that?
Because I don't want to do anything that's going to violate any strength of an agency. You know, we have enough problems. And by the way, with the CIA, I just want people to know, the CIA was hacked and a lot of things taken. That was during the Obama years. That was not during us. That was during the Obama situation. Mike Pompeo is there now doing a fantastic job. But we will be submitting certain things, and I will be perhaps speaking about this next week. but it's right now before the committee, and I think I want to leave it there. I have a lot of confidence
Why
in the
not
committee.
wait to tweet about it until you can prove it? Don't you devalue your words when you can't provide evidence?
Because the New York Times wrote about it. You know, not that I respect the New York Times. I call it the failing New York Times. But they did write on January 20th using the word wiretap. Other people have come out with
right, but you're the president. You have the ability to gather all the evidence you want.
I do, but I think that, frankly, we have a lot right now. And I think if you watch... if you watched the Bret Baier and what he was saying and what he was talking about and how he mentioned the word wiretap, you would feel very confident that you could mention the name. He mentioned it, and other people have mentioned it. But if you take a look at some of the things written about wiretapping and eavesdropping, and don't forget, when I say wiretap, those words were in quotes. That really covers, because wiretapping is pretty old-fashioned stuff, but that really covers surveillance and many other things. And nobody ever talks about the fact that it was in quotes, but that's a very important thing. But wiretap covers a lot of different things. I think you're going to find some very interesting items coming to the forefront over the next 2 weeks.
Well, I guess you have to hand it to Tucker Carlson for actually getting that done there, actually asking the tough questions, which is quite incredible. Fox News isn't really known to do that with Donald Trump, but a congressional committee actually looked into this because of his claims, and of course they found nothing. Adam Schiff and Devin Nunes of the House Intelligence Committee commented on it right after they found out the information, just I believe on Wednesday.
As I told you last week about the issue with the president talking about tapping Trump Tower, that evidence still remains the same, that we don't have any evidence that that took place. And in fact, I don't believe, just in the last week of time, the people we've talked to, I don't think there was an actual tap of Trump Tower. However, as I expressed last week, and I remain even more concerned about this, which are twofold. One, the incidental collection of Americans that were possibly tied to the Trump campaign that could have been leaked, similar to General Flynn. And secondly, the unmasking of Americans' names, potentially for political purposes, which we're continuing to ask more about that. Mr. Schiff and I are sending a letter today to Director Comey, Pompeo, and Admiral Rogers, asking for the total number of names that were unmasked over the course of the last 6 months.
I want to join in saying that to date I've seen no evidence that supports the claim that President Trump made that his predecessor had wiretapped he and his associates at Trump Tower. Thus far, we have seen no basis for that whatsoever. We still want the Justice Department to respond to our letter. We've given them until March 20th. We're both willing to use compulsory process if that's necessary, though neither of us, I think, believe that will be necessary. Certainly, at the open hearing that we have on March 20th, we will be asking the director if he has seen any evidence that substantiates the president's claim. It deeply concerns me that the president would make such an accusation without basis. We think it's in the public interest that this be addressed very openly by the director, and we certainly expect that he will.
Yeah, there was no wiretap, not of Trump, not at Trump Tower, not ordered by Obama. Just ridiculous. And then, of course, worst of all, again, was Spicy at the daily briefing, watching Sean Spicer trying to walk this back and actually just kind of really steps into it eventually.
The findings, the bipartisan findings of the Senate Intelligence Committee.
No, they're not findings. There's a statement out today. They have not begun this. As you know, yesterday or 2 days ago, the Department of Justice asked for an additional week. So the statement clearly says that at this time that they don't believe that. They have yet to go through the information. The Department of Justice, as you know, has not supplied this. But I've just read off to you. It's interesting. When the New York Times reports... Hold on.
Let's do that whole long answer.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. So are you saying that the president still stands by his allegation that President Obama ordered wiretapping or surveillance of Trump Tower, despite the fact that The Senate Intelligence Committee says they see no indication that it happened. Does the president still stand by the
first of all, he
allegation?
stands by it. But again, you're mischaracterizing what happened today.
No,
the
they
Senate.
said
No,
they
no,
saw
I
no
know.
indication.
No,
I'm
no.
reading exactly from their statement.
I understand that, and at the same time, they acknowledge that they have not been in contact with the Department of Justice.
Wow, just crazy. First, Trump, in Trump's statements, first he blames Obama for a terrible CIA, and of course Trump says he's already fixed that just with his appointment of Mike Pompeo. But then he still doesn't trust them enough to ask if he was being wiretapped. It's just ridiculous. He actually prefers the New York Times, the fake news New York Times, and their article chatting up the Flynn investigation from back on Inauguration Day, and that freak Mark Levin, who started most of this with his rant on his podcast where he accused all this of happening and there's this big conspiracy and all this crap. It's just amazing. Actually, the meat of this is probably in the Russia connection. That's really quite deep, it looks like, especially with Flynn, who has been getting rich off of foreign payments from Turkey and from Russia. He just filed as a foreign agent officially of Turkey. It's really just kind of ridiculous, I think. And then, of course, Spicy at the end of his, spent 8 minutes citing all of these bullshit stories from all of these different sources, and eventually got to one that was a story, I believe, by Fox or something, where they claimed that the U.S. didn't do the wiretapping, but the GCHQ, which is the British Intelligence Agency, they're the ones who did it. And of course, the GCHQ immediately came out and denied it, and Spicer had to walk that back, of course.
All we're doing is literally reading off what other stations and people have reported. Forgive you, we're a little late, so I'll give Jim a break on this one. Last on Fox News on March 14th, Judge Andrew Napolitano made the following statement, quote, 3 intelligence sources have informed Fox News that President Obama went outside the chain of command. He didn't use the NSA, he didn't use the CIA, he didn't use the FBI, and he didn't use the Department of Justice. He used GCHQ. What is that? It's the initials for the British Intelligence Spying Agency. So simply by having 2 people saying to them, President needs transcripts of conversations involving candidate Trump's conversations involving President-elect Trump, he's able to get it, and there's no American fingerprints on this. Putting the published counts and common sense together, this leads to a lot. Again, these are just that happened, I think, 2 days ago. It was something that was reported on air. And I think the point is that there's been no, it has not been raised. But I do think that, again, we're not. All we're doing is literally reading off what other stations and people have reported, and I think that casts into concern some of the activities that may have occurred during the 2016 election. We're not casting judgment on that. I think the idea is to say that if these organizations, these individuals came to these conclusions, they merit looking into.
Wow. That's all I've got to say. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Judge Napolitano down in New Orleans in Louisiana, really? This whole fart has been a thorn in the side of reality for many, many years. Anybody who's ever watched even a brief moment of Fox News has probably seen him on there. It's wow. It's just amazing. So, well, now you know why we bring you the Carnival Barks segment, because this stuff is just off the hook. Well, we're going to finish this segment. We're going to do our little bit with Mulcahy, the budget director for Obama. Listen to me, for Trump. Trump's budget director made some just ridiculous statements during the press conference, actually. And he's gotten a lot of heat for it, but I think he's going to stick by it because he just seems like that crazy of a guy. But we'll just let the comments speak for themselves. First comments here are on Meals on Wheels and getting seniors affordable meals when they otherwise wouldn't possibly be able to afford it.
Development and the community development block grants aren't exclusively about housing. They support a variety of different programs, including, in part, Meals on Wheels that affects a lot of Americans. In Austin, Texas today, one organization there that delivers those meals to thousands of elderly says that those citizens will no longer be able to be provided those meals in those communities. So what do you say to those Americans who are ultimately losing out, not on housing, but on other things that are taken out of this budget?
And as you know, I think you know, that Meals on Wheels is not a federal program. It's part of that community, that CDBGs, the block grants that we give to the states. And then many states make the decision to use that money on Meals on Wheels. Here's what I can tell you about CDBGs, because that's what we fund, right? Is that we spent $150 billion on those programs since the 1970s. The CDBGs have been identified as programs since, I believe, the second Bush administration, as ones that were just not showing any results. That we can't do that anymore. We can't spend money on programs just because they sound good and great. Meals on Wheels sounds great. Again, that's a state decision to fund that particular portion to it, to take the federal money and give it to the states and say, look, we want to give you money for programs that don't work. I can't defend that anymore. We cannot defend that anymore. We're $20 trillion in debt. We're going to spend money. We're going to spend a lot of money, but we're not going to spend it on programs that cannot show that they actually deliver the promises that we've made to people.
Yep, you heard that. You heard that right, folks. He doesn't think Meals on Wheels is effective. I don't know where the fuck he's getting his information, but I know that there's a lot of poor people in this country, especially elderly, that struggle to afford the food they need over the course of a month. And without the Meals on Wheels program to provide affordable food, these old folks would be hungry often. This son of a bitch just thinks it's not an effective program based on no science. Because why? Because he works for Obama. Obama doesn't need a damn thing. He just pulls shit right out of his ass. It doesn't matter. He just pulls shit right out of his ass. And then they have the nerve to also do this to the breakfast programs. Same reasoning. The exact same reasoning.
There's a program called The Shine that's in Pennsylvania, rural counties of Pennsylvania, that provides after-school educational programs for individuals in those areas, which just so happens to be the state that helped propel President Trump to the White House. I'm curious what you say to those Americans in a community where they tell me today that 800 individuals will no longer, children who need it most, will no longer be provided in those most needy of communities the educational care they need.
I'm not familiar. Y'all are at an advantage over me because I have to memorize all 4,000 line items. So let's talk about after-school programs generally. They're supposed to be educational programs, right? And that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to help kids who don't get fed at home get fed so they do better in school. Guess what? There's no demonstrable evidence they're actually doing that. There's no demonstrable evidence they're actually helping results, helping kids do better in school, which is what, when we took your money from you to say, look, we're going to go spend on an after-school program, the way we justified it was, these programs are going to help these kids do better in school and get better jobs. And we can't prove that that's happening.
Let me learn you a little something here, Mr. Mulvaney. In Frontiers of Neuroscience in 2013, they published a paper. 3 fine scientists did a giant meta-study. And why did they do this? Well, they wanted to find out if it really did, breakfast at school had an effect on learning. And what they said to introduce their paper was, quote, breakfast consumption is associated with positive outcomes for diet quality, micronutrient intake, weight status, and lifestyle factors. Breakfast has been suggested to positively affect learning in children in terms of behavior, cognitive, and school performance. However, these assertions are largely based on evidence which demonstrates acute effects of breakfast on cognitive performance. Less research which examines the effects of breakfast on the ecologically valid outcomes of academic performance or in-class behavior is available. So what did they do? Well, they studied 63 years of studies on this subject related to breakfast, breakfast for schools and children, breakfast on learning, food on learning, and all those sorts of things. A giant meta-study. And what did they find? Well, overall, the evidence suggests beneficial effects of breakfast for on-task behavior in the classroom, mainly in younger children under the ages of 13 years old. This effect was apparent in children who were well-nourished, undernourished, and or from deprived or low SES backgrounds. For school performance outcomes, evidence suggests a positive association between habitual breakfast frequency and quality on school grades or achievement test scores. So, Mr. Mulvaney, if you Google, you simply do a very simple Google on the words school, breakfast, study. This is probably going to be right at the top of the chart. And it's from the U.S. National Library of Medicine, from the National Institutes of Health, where you can find this information. It's open to the public. You could have read this yourself. And I won't even go into the sheer stupidity of the idea that the senior Meals on Wheels programs are not helpful. He's just an idiot. A deconstructionist, as we now know. Steve Bannon, the racist, white supremacist advisor to the president, stated during the CPAC convention that they want to disassemble the administrative state. That's right. Get rid of Washington, D.C. as we know it. Basically. Amazing. Just amazing. Well, that's going to be it for Carnival Barks for this week. Why don't we get a little word in from our sponsors here? Tired of pills? We can help. At Southern Oregon Alternative Medicine, we offer chiropractic and naturopathic medicine, massage, acupuncture, and medical marijuana therapy. With clinics in 19 locations across Oregon and main offices in Portland, Springfield, and Medford, we make it convenient and easy for you too. Southern Oregon Alternative Medicine is the only clinic of its kind to offer both medical marijuana certification and full health care. You can find us online at www.soaltmed.com or southernoregonalternativemedicine.com or call us at 541-779-5235. At Honey Badger Sungrown, they care about providing natural products. There are no chemical pesticides and no chemical fertilizers used in their cannabis grow, and they are motivated with a passion for natural cultivation. They take pride in sustainable and environmentally friendly cultivation and produce their product on the beautiful Willamette Valley floor. Honey Badger Cannabis is available at a number of dispensaries, including Grow High Station in Portland and Stash Cannabis Company in Beaverton. Ask for Honey Badger Sungrown products at your dispensary. You can visit them online at www.honeybadgersungrown.com. So we've got Anthony Taylor on the phone with us now from Compassionate Oregon. He's the president of Compassionate Oregon, the real only patient advocacy group in Oregon. And his House Bill 2198 has been kind of co-opted and become a gut and stuff kind of bill. And they just had a meeting on it on Tuesday, and it didn't go all that great, really, because, of course, they have stuck in all that OLCC stuff. So tell us a little bit about what happened, Anthony, and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you having me on. Well, it's not unusual for a bill that's being, that's been introduced to be hijacked or never heard, or any number of situations that can play out, or be heard by one committee and then referred to another where it goes to die. Those sorts of things happen all the time. So what they did is they deleted everything that was in House Bill 2198 as introduced, and stuffed all the stuff in it from the OLCC matrix, including language limiting patient access to medicine and the ability of their growers to transfer limited amounts. It's just a horrible situation on all kinds of levels, from enforcement to patient access. And the committee was a little bit blindsided initially when the public hearing was opened up. The bill so they could follow it, and then they realized it was 300-some pages, 300, almost 700, 400 pages.
Wow, but your original bill was not that long, right?
Yeah, and to, try and have a public hearing on something that game-changing when the reality is that none of the major stakeholders in the state support integration. And I know that the Oregon Cannabis Association is in Salem right now on their lobby day, and right in their handout materials, they say, we do not support integration of the medical system with the recreational system. We think it's a bad time to try to do it, and that to try and rush something through this fast, this quick, this game-changing would be unconscionable. If they tried to do this, it would keep patients and their growers in kind of a suspended state until it all settles out 3 years down the road from now, and they've got all those medical growers licensed. In the meantime, the medical growers are going to go back to just growing their 6 plants and their 4 plants and growing big old plants and blowing the doors off of the unregulated market, which is an enforcement issue, and 2, an economic issue because it takes away from the legal market that's trying to get established out there. So it's tricky, and they just don't seem to grasp what's going on.
Right. That's amazing. And the OCA, the Oregon Cannabis Association, is supportive of the original measure, right, but not this gut and stuff thing, which is remarkable.
The OCA has taken no position on House Bill 2198 and have kind of said they're not supporting integration, but this isn't integration; it's reorganization.
Right, and they're actually
the streamlining of the regulatory system in Oregon by consolidating the workload and assigning it into the appropriate agencies. That's what's key to our proposal.
Right, the original, as it was originally proposed, not with all these amendments.
Yes, as introduced.
Right. Okay. All right.
So OCA is basically taking the position that although they've had a long history of supporting streamlining the system to make the industry as a whole a better industry and that sort of thing, but they just say that they're really seriously concerned that it's not the right time to end the medical program, including the commercial piece, or shift it to the OLCC. So
right.
In these days, where it's extremely precarious from the federal level,
extremely,
moving it over could lead to a wholesale, in their words, a wholesale shutdown of our completely recreational program.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of the big scary part too, because, of course, just a couple of days ago, Jeff Sessions was making some crazy comments about recreational cannabis. Borderline comparing it to heroin. Just laughing at the idea of recreational cannabis. So, and it's a pretty scary situation on that front, and I think it's a real concern we need to think about for sure. Now, what are some of the onerous things that the OLCC is stuffing into your bill?
Well, one of the things is that they're putting a limit on the amount of marijuana, the amount of medicine that can be transferred to a patient from an OLCC licensee. And that limit is 3 pounds per year, or 240 grams, or about 8 ounces of extract.
Or
should you need more than that, you can seek permission to increase that limit to 12 pounds.
That's a hell of a jump.
That will help, but you have to ask permission for that from the OLCC.
Oh, please, Master, let me have some more.
Yes,
I mean, what
please, sir. I have some more.
That is just and what? Let me ask you, what does OLCC know though?
Let me just finish up what else is attached to that.
Oh my gosh, that's just
when they when they evaluate your request to increase the limits, they take into account your economic situation. So if you're knocking down $100,000 a year and have the means by which to pay for marijuana at a dispensary store, then
they force you to?
You will be denied the increase in limits and be directed to begin purchasing those amounts from the stores.
Oh my God. That is such fucking overreach. Oh my God. That's just amazing to me. I just,
For anybody other than a health agency to be involved in trying to determine these issues
absolutely
is ludicrous. Now, they do allude to...
let me interject. I gotta interject right here. Hang on. I gotta interject. The only people in this state that really know about dosing patients for cannabis are the cannabis clinicians and the people over the counter and the people who there's some generous people that help medical patients and help them learn how to dose. It's not even the doctors. Most of the doctors can't even do that, So I find it quite remarkable, really. Anyway, that's my interjection.
Well, I appreciate that position, and it's very true. And that's one of the things we worry about is that, you keep restricting this program instead of expanding it. There's not much hope for clinics. We've seen a couple of the really good clinics, that take the care and the time with their patients to evaluate them each time they come in and provide follow-ups and things of that nature. Those are falling by the wayside, and
right.
And it's unfortunate because that, to your point, is exactly where the professionals are that can talk about dosing and delivery modalities. And so, to that point, I would say that people that are really interested in that kind of care, they get in touch with the Canna MDs there in Tigard, Oregon, and become one of their patients. Those doctors deal with 400 patients a month that are cannabis people, and they see them several times a year and just make sure that they're doing okay with what their medications are. So you can't ask for much more than that.
There's another concern that actually Oregonians for Public Health and Safety's head guy Caleb Hayes explained to me that they've created now. If they actually go ahead with these pesticide rollbacks that they projected, they're requiring 100% of medical grows to be tested for stuff, but not nearly that on the recreational grows. And if these grows are combined, how are they going to deal with that? I mean, it's that's another complication from requiring all of the medical grows to be on in a recreational area, like add-ons to their stuff and doing the bump ups. Is that an issue that we should be concerned about?
It's an issue. It's a big issue. What happens is that the medical marijuana patients, although the demographic most in need of rigid testing, you want your pharmaceuticals to be pure, right? You don't want them contaminated, and that's
absolutely
the good side about the pharmaceutical industry is that's all kind of standardized, and they can give it to just about anybody at a 5 milligram dose, right?
Right.
Complicated because of the cost of doing that and the levels that need to be attained to get there. And until it's chemically synthesized, you can't get to zero.
You can't get to zero, right? Almost.
So what's my point? My point is that the one option to be able to deal with the high cost of testing is to give medical growers a subsidy.
No, that's an interesting
interesting. You're testing 4 times a year. You're testing your stuff. Or at the end of every harvest, you're testing your stuff. So you get a break, on your costs that's subsidized through the industry at this point, because the state wouldn't do it. But you see what I'm saying? So
I do.
That those testing costs that are critical to the health and safety of patients don't destroy those patients' access to their medicine.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
kind of where I come down on it. I support it, but in its current form, with the high cost of testing, it makes it tough for patients and the smaller craft people that are supplying these patients. It makes it tough for them to deal with it because of the cost. So we need some kind of subsidy to do that. You know, farmers all across the great land are subsidized in various ways. You know, milk, corn, soybeans, all that sort of stuff, and they get crop insurance.
Oh, totally. And most of those farms are not even actually, unfortunately, those are even subsidized to Exxon and to Monsanto, or not Monsanto, but ADM, or the big grain growers out of the Midwest. And Exxon gets, free shoreline to be able to drill for oil. And I mean, the amount of corporate welfare that's out there is just amazing.
Well, that's a story for another day.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I think right now we just really have to concentrate on opposing integration in any form that's mandatory, and making sure that we support House Bill 2198 as introduced.
What is it people can do now that it's kind of rolled out there? Should they be contacting specifically the Joint Committee?
Yeah, absolutely. They need to call the chairs, the co-chairs, Burdick and Leininger. Those are the key people. They have to be turned back from this effort. And so all we have to do is call those two, make sure they're getting a couple hundred calls a day, and leaving voicemails, sending emails, sending faxes, and the
faxes.
talking point of the day is oppose integration, oppose -1, support HB 2198 as introduced.
Right. Okay. Well, then we need to get people to do that. That's an important part of this. Ann Leininger is her email address, just for people who are listening, is rep.annlininger@state.or.us. I know that's a lot. You can find it. You can find it if you type in OLIS in Google. The top return you're going to get is the legislative website for Oregon. Just click on it, and then it's really easy to navigate to the Joint Committee on Medical Marijuana. Go to the committee button, click that, then go to the Joint Committee, and you're going to find the information for everybody. So, how can they help out?
And also go to the Compassionate Oregon Facebook page, and that stuff is in one of our posts over the last couple of days. All those phone numbers and all the email addresses.
And that's
and who the chairs are, what party they're with.
Right, exactly. So that's important. I know Ann Leininger, her district is around Lake Oswego, and I know that.
Yes,
so if you live in that district, especially, tell them that you are from their district. And I know that Burdick is due east of that, right, or due west. Burdick is like Washington County.
It's west. She's in the Tigard area.
Tigard, a small chunk of Portland, mostly Tigard though, and over towards Beaverton and that area. That's her area. So contact her if you live in that region for sure, right? I mean, because they love to hear from their own constituents even more, of course, because they have a vote in keeping them reelected. So just so everybody knows, we want you to do that. All right, man.
Tell them, you know what? We voted for you this last election, and you're letting us down.
Right. No, exactly. It's a big deal. And, Jenny Burdick is the Senate Majority Leader.
Yes,
and
she sits as a co-chair on a committee.
Highly unusual. Actually, it's not even supposed to be allowed. I think they had to pass some little change of the rules in order to allow her to do it right at the beginning of the session or something. It's a little weird, and I really wish she wasn't involved anymore. I don't think she needs to be. Fahey has been a breath of fresh air. Representative Fahey seems
right now.
What's that again?
She's overwhelmed right now.
Yeah, she's new, so there's a heck of a learning curve. I know that.
Yeah, technical learning curve.
Yeah, right. All right, man. So we thank you for joining us, Anthony. We want to have you back on again, of course, when there's more breaking news. So let me know when something happens on this. You think it's going to be a couple weeks?
Okay, that sounds great. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, Anthony. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
And we really appreciate Anthony Taylor joining us here on GodDab Radio. Anthony is really tuned in Salem. He knows what's happening, so it's good to hear from him. I apologize for the audio on that. We had a little bit of feedback going. I think Anthony may have been on his speakerphone for a bit of that, but it seemed to come through pretty audibly. And I'm working on getting an actual phone connection for my mixer, so we're going to be having it a little cleaner, hopefully in interviews in the future, so we're working on that. But thanks again, Anthony, for joining us. And now a word from another one of our sponsors. Are you interested in cannabis? Do you work in the industry? If so, you should pick up a copy of the Oregon Cannabis Connection newspaper, available at over 380 locations across Oregon. We cover cannabis news and provide solid information on cannabis in Oregon and nationwide. Find us online at www.occnewspaper.com or pick up a copy at one of our distribution locations. We offer an interactive map on our website for your convenience. Oregon Cannabis Connection, connecting the cannabis community in Oregon since 2010. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed our show this week. A slightly abbreviated show, I guess, but that's okay. I think we still covered some really good information for you guys. So please tune in again or download us again next week at 3 o'clock on Friday, as we are always available at that time. You can find us on TuneIn. You can find us on Amazon. You can find us on iTunes. We're in all the normal places, Stitcher, all the places that you normally find podcasts. And also, of course, at www.goddabradio.com, where you can subscribe to our show. So until next week, I'm Mad Dog Manser. Have a good one.